All right. Hello, everyone. Today's workshop is all about teaching versus coaching as a financial coach, specifically how to flex your coaching skills. So are you a financial teacher? Are you doing financial education, or are you providing financial coaching? And let's just kick it off by saying that financial education is absolutely needed in our world. There is nothing wrong with providing financial education. It is so very needed. And it's not the same thing as financial coaching, which is why we want to dive into it. Okay. Really quickly, I want to hear from you guys in the chat. How many or how long have you been in business? And this is where, think of this as like a baby. You're either going to tell me in months or years based on the age of your baby, right? So how long have you been in business? 3 years, 5 years, 3.5 months? Wow. Okay. Not in business yet, kicking things off. That's great. Thanks for joining us, Stacy, and diving in really early on. I love that. Newborn here. Brilliant. 1.5 years, 4 months, 3 years, 5 months. I mean, massive array here, guys, like huge variety. 1 month and 1 year. 2 different people there. 2 years consistently for 3 months. Vicky, from now on, it's 2 years. That's how you answer that question. Just so you know, I did the same thing early on in my business. I remember somebody asked me that and I was like, well, I did it part-time for like a year. And then I did it for like 2 years full-time. So 3 years. And he goes, so 3 years. And I was like, okay, yes, 3 years. And so you don't need to qualify that, right? You've been a financial coach for, I think you said 2 years. I can't remember now what your first number was. Yeah, 2 years. All right, good. So really quickly, before I dive into today's topic, I want to see how many of you are Financial Coach Academy coaches. So go ahead and leave the comment Rockstar in the comments if you have done the Academy or you're currently enrolled in the Academy. I just want to see really quickly how many of you have done that. Awesome. Yes. About 90% complete. That's brilliant. We sort of say you're never done just because we want you to revisit, various videos and lessons and all of that. Over and over and over again as needed. That's kind of how growth works. We're going to talk about that today. Actually, it's going to apply to today's topic. It's one of the reasons we designed the course that way. So for those of you who don't know me, if you're new here, or if you are one of those newborn businesses, or if you haven't even started yet, this might be your very first workshop with me. My name is 𝗪𝗓. I am the creator of Fiscal Fitness, which is the financial coaching arm of my business. That's how I launched that business 13 years ago now. We provide financial coaching for fitness enthusiasts. That's really our niche. We help them take all of the skills they apply every day to their fitness and nutrition, and we help them just change the currency and apply it to their money. And then about 6 years ago now, I launched the Financial Coach Academy, which is how we train and mentor financial coaches to both launch and grow amazing financial coaching businesses and get clients results and that sort of thing. So I can't kick things off without talking about my baby, the Financial Coach Academy. So I was thinking about this. I was like, what could I share with them? I know so many of you either know already, you've been in the Academy, or you might have already seen me talk about it. So I was like, what are the things that I could share? So I wanted to share with you, and I want your insight. So if you have done the Academy, I'm going to ask you about these 3 things. So pay close attention. Okay. What are the 3 biggest reasons somebody enrolls in the Financial Coach Academy? So, we ask this question when people enroll and when I do calls with coaches about whether or not the Academy is the right fit for them. Here's the 3 things that I hear most often. And of the rock star coaches who you've already invested in yourselves as a coach with the Financial Coach Academy, I want you to tell me which one of these 3 things were your reasons for enrolling. Okay, so number 1, number 2, number 3, or all of them. You can go ahead and say all of them if you want. Okay, number 1, to increase the likelihood of success as a financial coach. So if you were wondering, like, how do I do this? Where do I start? Am I cut out for this? The Academy gave you not only the framework, but the materials, the process, the training, the steps to launch a financial coaching business. And it shows you how to get clients and coaches you through serving those clients really well and helping them to achieve massive results. So number one was increasing the likelihood for success as a financial coach. Number two, you wanted to speed up your process of launching. So you can definitely launch without something like the Financial Coach Academy, but there's going to be a ton of time spent researching how to do things. There will be a ton of trial and error and a lot of creating things from scratch. The Academy tells you why so many of the strategies that are out there when it comes to, small business strategies, why they don't work for a financial coaching business, and shows you the ways that will work. And you'll feel confident sooner. You'll launch faster. You'll start helping people quicker, which means you'll start making money as a financial coach way sooner than without it. So number two is to speed up the process of launching. And number three, we make the process of launching a business fun and enjoyable. So if you're launching a business, which we all are, let's be honest, it's probably no easy feat. And I want to always set that expectation really early on so no one's blindsided. The Academy isn't easy because you are launching a business and you are growing your skills as a coach. And naturally, both of those things are going to require commitment and a little bit of growing pains, right? So we've tried to infuse fun into the course. Hopefully, if you are one of those people that's like 90% through, you've experienced that. We try to make the lesson videos very conversational. You unlock bonus materials and silly emails from us as you complete various lessons. The community aspect is a big part of it. So when you need inspiration or accountability from others, you have it. One of the things with this is, I don't know if you guys know this, the average in the United States, the average completion rate for digital courses in the United States is 12%. So 1 out of 10 people that sign up and take a course complete it, which I think is absolute garbage. Ours for the Financial Coach Academy, right now, we check it every single month. We keep an eye on this. It is one of the metrics we are always looking to improve, because if you are completing it, we know you're likely getting results. The Financial Coach Academy this month is 64% completion. So 64%, the high majority, 2 out of 3 people. And it's a tricky number to score because it can take a while. It can take 6 months, let's say, to get through the core modules. And so that number includes people who just enrolled last month, right? So we will likely never have a 99 or 100% completion because it takes time to enroll and get through the course. But we are incredibly proud of our completion rate. So that should hopefully tell you that the likelihood that it will work for you is high because it has already worked for so many. So again, which one of those was your reason for joining? Number one, to increase the likelihood of success. Number two, speed up your process of launching. Or number three, because you knew there's some hustle involved, some hard work involved in launching a business, and you wanted to make it a little bit more fun and enjoyable for yourself. 1, 2, 3, or all. If you have been in the Financial Coach Academy, if you've already enrolled, what was your reason? Go ahead and leave it in the chat. Okay, here we go. Join for 1 and 2, but really appreciate 3. Oh, thanks, John. All 2 and 3, 2. 3 for sure. I have no idea what I'm doing on the business side of things. That's all right, Casey. You are in the right place. Shamika says all. Jocelyn says all. Awesome, you guys. Good. We love hearing that feedback. We love kind of knowing. Likely all, Deb says. Likely. She's not sure. All but 3 has truly been what's missing. Lauren. Oh, good. Yes, I know, Lauren, you've been diving into so many different things, the mastermind, the client creator challenge, and you are just doing such great things. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate all of the feedback. Some of you have probably noticed we make real-time adjustments to the course. So if you are filling out those feedback forms throughout, if we see a trend, we get on it really quickly and we make changes very quickly. So, all right, so let's start by setting the stage for what we're going to be talking about today. Teaching versus coaching. I don't know about you guys, but I know when I first had this idea of like, I'm going to be a financial coach, I'm going to help people with their money. This is the image I had in my head. No lie. I would sit with the client. I would explain how money works or why this one way of doing things is like the smart way to do it. They would see exactly what I'm saying and know that I was right. And then voila, they would take action and they would start implementing it. They'd experience a transformation. It would be amazing. They would love me. I'd smile, we hug. It would be incredible, right? That's what I thought financial coaching was going to be like. In other words, what I imagined in my brain was more or less teaching, because I imagined sort of like telling my client about certain things, them adopting it right out of the gate and getting results from that, right? Does that sound like you guys? Go ahead and like give me like a head nod. Yes. Michelle says, wait, it's not? You are in the right place, Michelle. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, Tony says, yes. That's what I thought before joining FCA. Exactly. FCA really, I mean, I really think about like, God, what I would have, how much faster I could have been successful at this if I had something like FCA when I first launched. When people say that they're making a certain dollar amount in their business and it's earlier than what I made that dollar amount personally, nothing makes me more proud, you guys, honestly, because I think about the heartache that I had to experience. You know, I didn't know any other financial coaches. I didn't know anybody to ask questions to or run things by. In fact, I kept hearing things like, there's no way you can make money as a financial coach. There's no way you can help people who are broke and make a living doing it. Those are the things I kept hearing, right? So, yeah, I'm just like so proud of like, if we can help you speed up that process of getting clients results and making money doing this as a living and loving the process, nothing makes me more proud. So if this image sounds like what you thought, or if it's what you're currently doing, it's okay. I was certainly able to help a lot of people even with that approach early on, you guys. Okay. So I don't want you to think teaching is wrong. It's not at all. It's not bad versus good. It is one element of coaching. Okay. It's oftentimes our first step. But once I embraced more of a coaching approach versus a teaching approach, I was able to help a lot more people. And that help actually looked more like a transformation and growth versus knowledge and understanding from the client. Okay. So it's really, think about it as like the depth of the changes they were making were greater because of coaching. So today I want to talk with you about, what do you do when a client can't or doesn't see what you're saying? Or they see what you're saying, but they can't take action. They can't get themselves to take action, or can't get themselves to take action consistently on that approach. What do you do? I also want to talk with you about really how coaching instead of teaching actually improves your client's success rate. Okay. The results that they're going to get are going to be better, faster, everything like that. It's going to be a much more fulfilling journey for you by embracing a coaching role. Now, I want to be super clear. I asked you guys at the start, like how long you've been in business. I'm going to discuss this today from a foundational perspective. This is like your beginner's coaching workshop. How do you go from a teaching to a coaching approach? There are advanced coaching strategies that I absolutely love, and I will share those at some point. I will get a workshop added to the calendar where it's the more advanced concepts around coaching. If you've been coaching for a while, we are not today going to dive into things like cognitive behavioral therapy. We're not going to cover how your thoughts create your feelings, how those feelings determine the actions you take, and then how those actions determine your results. That entire thought work process, we're not going to tackle that today, but we will tackle it in the future. I promise. That will be like a part 2. Okay. Most beginner financial coaches are solving specific problems that their clients are bringing to them. They're not jumping right into thought work with their clients. And if you are the type of coach that's doing that, then chances are you already know those techniques because you've studied them already in some fashion. Okay. Today, what I'm trying to do, my mission for today, is to help new coaches flex your coaching muscles away from a teaching approach and into the beginning phases of really leaning into this idea of a coaching role with your clients. Okay. Just like the beginning phases of that. And I want to be really careful today of like not overwhelming newer coaches right out the gate. If we're not careful, even for our clients, you guys, we can make the process of growth so overwhelming and sound so daunting that they don't take action. It's actually a disservice to them. So I think about the times that like my clients, when they first come to me at Physical Fitness, what we hear most often, you'll hear me say this all the time, like in my videos where I tell you guys about like our marketing strategies and stuff. They say, I don't know where my money is going. I just need a plan. That's what they say. It's like the word plan is like in 90% of our clients' prep work. Okay. The thing that they see that they're struggling with is that they don't have a plan. And that is their number one financial concern. Now, I could look at their financial picture and be like, oh boy, you've got a lot of other things going on too. We got to solve this. We got to solve this. We got to get through this. There's like, I got to be able to help you with X, Y, and Z. And if I were to say that to them right out of the gate, I promise their reaction would be, that's really great. I just need to know, how do I pay this bill that I've got on Friday, right? In other words, realizing just how much we don't yet know is not always helpful. Okay. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're really having those initial conversations with clients. Taking it one step at a time is really important. You can know what's coming down the line for them, but they don't always know that. I think about like, when we start to solve the one problem that they're experiencing and they can see that they're working through that problem, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's almost like this mental fog is lifted. Like it's like the clarity they can then see of like all the other things they could then do becomes so much more obvious to them. And that's when they might be like, oh shit, I got a lot of other things I got to work on here. Right. And that's okay. And we're there to be like, hey, I got you through those too. But at first, it's almost like the struggle is so real early on that we want to just give them the next steps, right? And I want to give you the next steps in growing as a coach today, not all of the steps that you need to know. So this is where starting to flex your coaching muscles. We're going to start today and we're going to refine and grow it from here. So here's the process that I want you to adopt. We teach this in the academy. We do like a group think exercise around this, where we talk about like a specific problem someone's having, like a money problem that a client might come to you with. And we talk about each of these phases and what that might look like. But we're going to tackle each one of these. So the process of coaching or growth, if you will, the process of change is education, application, and commitment. Education is like gaining new knowledge, learning something new, right? Thinking about like, what's the foundational pieces that a client needs to know before they can even do anything. Okay. So gaining new knowledge, learning something new. Application, I believe, is really where the coaching comes into place. We're going to talk about this category a lot today, this phase. This is applying that knowledge to your life, applying it to your particular situation. This is also learning by doing, because there is only so much that we can learn through consumption of knowledge, right? So much value comes from taking action, and like what we learn when we do that is oftentimes vital, and we need to support our clients through learning as they apply knowledge. Okay. You will likely find with clients that you toggle back and forth between education and application before you move on to the third step of commitment. Okay. So there's like this dance between education and application. It's like continuous learning, growth, learning, and growth, right? A dance between consuming and applying, helping them to see like, what did you learn from that? Let's talk about that. Let's learn some new tips, new tools, new strategies, and let's apply again, right? Like we're continuously on that journey. You want your clients to apply what they are learning. That is coaching, right? If you think about this, so many of my clients know what they should be doing. They know, right? And I'm curious how many of your clients feel the same way. It's a matter of getting them feeling like they can't get themselves to take action, right? They can't get themselves to apply it, or they can't get themselves to apply it consistently. And that's really where coaching comes in. Each time that they apply something, it's going to have both intended and unintended effects, intended and unintended consequences. And so we're going to learn something new every time we do that. After we've done that process for a while, we get to the commitment phase, which is like, now that you've learned something new and you've discovered what that means for you specifically, because you've applied it to your life. What do you want to do about it? Right? Commitment is asking the question, what do you want to do with this new knowledge and discovery? Okay. I wrote this down. Coaching is helping a client navigate the development needed to reach a certain outcome. So in order to achieve a goal, there's various like skills and development and growth needed in that, right? Like there's the financial aspect of it, and then there's who we become in that process, right? Our role as coaches is to facilitate that process. We are guiding them through it. We're supporting them through the process. We are not controlling that process. Okay. We are not controlling that process. We're simply there to support them as they navigate it. Okay. We're going to facilitate it because we've seen it so many times after a while. We know how to help them anticipate the heartache, the challenges, the ups, the downs, all of that. Right. Now, I want to address something here really quickly that you might hear quite often when it comes to coaching. How many of you, give me the letters BS in the chat? How many of you have heard this statement? Coaches do not teach. Coaches do not teach. Type BS in the comments if you've heard that before. Quite a few of you. Good. Okay, good. Quite a few of you. If you haven't yet, that's good. Because I'm going to like insert what I think the right approach is here before you hear it for the first time, because I'm sure I know when I hear that, it triggered a lot of fraud like thoughts for myself early on. It really triggered a lot of imposter syndrome early on, calling myself a financial coach, but then hearing coaches don't teach. And yet I knew I was teaching some, right? It really caused sort of like an inner turmoil, a lot of doubt. I think the statement should say, coaches do not solely teach. We do not only teach. We do not just teach, right? There is this idea in sort of the world of like life coaching that the client always knows the answer, or the answer is always inside or within the client. Okay. What I take from that is see your client's fullest potential as being the driving force of their life, but don't take it literally as we don't ever teach as coaches, okay? Or that the client always knows the knowledge that they need to have in order to move forward. They have the potential and the ability to have that knowledge, right? Let me give you an example on why I think this is so important for financial coaches, okay? I think financial coaching is a unique beast as a profession. I think it's an amazing thing. This is a very positive trait. In that there is a technical, mathematical, financial strategy oftentimes that a client, that there's like illegal ways to do things, guys, right? Like there are right or wrong ways to do things financially. There are the way the world works when it comes to money, right? That we oftentimes need to teach our clients when they're trying to make a decision. I think about things like student loan repayment options. If your niche are people with a lot of student loans, chances are you need to have a vast knowledge of the various, repayment options out there for student loans, the pros and cons of each one, why some are better for others, like that kind of thing. And when it comes to helping that client who is looking to tackle getting out of student loan debt, you are going to want to educate them on those options, right? Like, I think that there is this element of financial coaching that absolutely requires teaching. Okay. Think about a couple that's like wanting to, talk with you about their newlyweds and they are not sure how to, manage money together as a couple. Having an understanding of like the various approaches out there that they could choose from we typically start with education, right? Here's the options that are out there, right? And then we're going to get to the application phase. But to say that we don't ever teach, I think is just way too literal of like an application for this. And I want to be really clear on that. Okay. Especially for financial coaching. There are some strategies, like when a client's like, you know, I want to buy an investment property for the first time. If your niche is people wanting to buy investment properties, having an understanding of how loans work for investment properties versus primary mortgages and like all the different ways that you could do that. There is a right way and a wrong way. There's lots of right ways, I should say, but there's also like strategies that we just can't ignore, right? So to say like the answer is always within the client. Now, which strategy they want to adopt is within the client, but we will need to have some step and some time invested in educating them. Okay. I want to talk now about 3 traps that I think newer coaches find themselves in most often when it comes to this process of education, application, and commitment. Okay. Trap number 1 is educating way too much. You are over explaining, or you're sitting in the trap is like getting stuck in this phase. You're not moving on, or you're only teaching, you're only talking at them, right? Or you're making decisions for them or that kind of thing. So you might do more educating early on in your coaching journey with clients. So like how to budget, student loan repayment options, you know, strategies for buying their first investment property. If your client is somebody who comes to you for money mindset help, right? Like they really want to dive into their mindset. Chances are you would educate them early on how thought work works, right? Like a general understanding of cognitive behavioral therapy and like how those thoughts affect our actions and like all those types of things, right? You would start with like making sure they have a foundational understanding of just thought work in general before you dive into their individual thoughts, right? So that's what I mean. Like we're likely educating them a little bit earlier on than later on, okay? So trap number 1 is over explaining, getting stuck in the education phase of things. Go ahead and give me in the chat, trap 1. Say trap 1 if you've found yourself stuck here before. Not all the time, maybe not even right now, but at some point in your coaching journey, you've been there. I know I have. Like almost everybody, which is good. I think it is a very common trap for sure. Okay. We're going to talk about some things you can do going forward to work on your coaching skills in just a little bit. Trap number 2 is controlling how the client applies the knowledge and or how they make a commitment or what commitment they want to make. So in other words, trying to control the application and commitment phase. This can look like 1, thinking you determine the client's results and you are putting way too much weight on, you know, the role you play in the results that your clients get. Okay. It also could look like you telling them how they should do something. So if you think about you know, anytime you're going to recommend some steps or like you're talking through like the various approaches or various strategies out there, and then you deciding which one they should do versus letting them decide which one they think is best for themselves to do. Does that make sense? Okay, good. I'm seeing some head nods. In this phase, you really want to be open to the idea that, you know, the various steps out there, that there is not only one way, and really try to not be so rigid in your teaching. Where I find this trap happens is when we aren't open-minded in the first phase. I truly believe, you guys, the people who seek out financial coaches are the ones who have tried various strategies out there that say this way will work for everybody. And when that way didn't work for them, they seek out help because they're looking for somebody to help them customize a strategy that will work for them. They are looking for a way that's like, I might take this strategy during this step, and I might take this strategy in this step. Help me figure out how I'm going to apply these various things into my life. And if you say, yeah, but that way was the only way, that way is the right way that works for everybody, then we aren't being open-minded, which means applying that into their life is going to be much harder than trying to think outside the box and think of all the different ways that we could help them apply strategies to their life. Okay. One question you can ask yourself if you find yourself in this trap is, can I be flexible in giving them different strategies so that all deliver the same outcome? Here's an example. Would you say that about cash flow planning and budgeting, or is that a non-negotiable for your clients? Beautiful. I was just going to use this as an example, Victoria. So you, perfect segue. I always say that the first step for our clients when they come to us is that we need to help them gain clarity. We need to help them gain clarity on where their money's going right now, the situation that they're currently in, right? What are they currently doing? We also need to help them gain clarity on like, what do they want to achieve? Like, get really specific about that. Because a lot of times our clients come to us and they're like, you know, I want to get out of debt. Well, that's like such a surface level, like that's true. Let's dive into that a little bit more. Let's get more clear on like, do you want to get out of debt entirely? Which debts do you want to get out of? Does that mean your mortgage debt too? How quickly would you like to get out of debt? Is this like a number one priority for you and you're willing to do whatever it takes to do that? Is it like, I want to do it, but I'm not willing to, you know, sacrifice everything in order to achieve it? Like, really get clear on like, what is your perspective on this? So gaining clarity, right? Now, when we say gain clarity on like, where's your money going financially, we can do that in a whole bunch of different ways. We can use a spreadsheet. We can look at your bank statements. We can use an app, right? Where there are so many different ways that we could do that with a client. The end result is the same. The outcome is that they gain clarity, right? How they gain clarity, our goal is not to be attached to one way, but to say which way is going to work best for you, right? I'll give you an example of how this shows up in our business. If you're in the academy, you've seen a copy of the prep work we give clients, you know, an example of a discovery session. So you know how we do this, and we use a Google sheet, right? There are times where a client's like, I don't have Google. I don't know how to use Excel. This like sheet right here is very intimidating to me, right? And we will ask them, can you print that and like fill it out for us? Is it easier if it's like pen to paper kind of thing? So it's not actually in Excel, right? And you can just send it back to us. That's totally fine. We will then input it, right? We will ask things like, can you send us your bank statements? If it's a business owner, if they have a P&L, we say, if you have a P&L from your bookkeeper, just send us that. That'll work, right? We're not so attached to that if a client is like very resistant to it, we're not going to force that step on them, okay? The end result is that we need to gain clarity. That's our goal. We can achieve that in a whole bunch of different ways, okay? So ask yourself, if you find yourself trying to control how they're applying things, another good way is like, you know, a client will like, you'll say, what if you tried this in the next couple of weeks? And they're like, I don't know. I don't think that will work for me. I'd rather try it this way. And you want to try and convince them. The way you will know if you are in this trap is if you find yourself with convincing energy during coaching sessions. Okay. So if you find yourself trying to convince them to do things, you're in this trap of trying to control how they apply things. Allow them to test their theories. Allow them to experiment and learn from that experiment. They might find that that way did not work. And guess what? They're going to be much more open to your approach the next session, right? Allow them to, you know, you have to be flexible in that style. Okay. The other trap number 3, confusing leading and facilitating with controlling. Very similar to the second one, but where I see this show up most for coaches is more like you have per session what you want to talk about in your program, and you're like not letting the client go at their pace. So like the client is maybe really struggling with the first phase of your program, like gaining clarity, right? Some people can do that in one session. Some of our clients, it takes a month of sessions, right? It really just depends. And if I were to say, well, I know we haven't quite solved this, but it's session 3. And in session 3, we're supposed to be talking about this. So we're going to move on to this. That is me trying to control the development versus simply facilitate their growth and knowing that that's going to take time. It's one of the reasons in the Financial Coach Academy, there's 2 things I want to highlight. The first is the client journey example. We've been getting tons of positive feedback on this video lately. I don't know. It's like all of a sudden everybody's at the stage where they're watching that video right now. And it's this video of like a real client example of like, first we had to talk about this, then something came up. And so we pivoted and we had to tackle this. So then we were able to regroup and get back on track and talk about these things and all of that. And the idea is like, we're always balancing this idea of like providing real-time help, right? If you are about to make a financial decision and I am your financial coach, I want to be there to help you make the best decision possible, even if it is like nowhere in our program, right? Like it's not where we're supposed to be doing it, right? And also balancing that with making sure we're not getting too reactionary with the client, right? Making sure that with the client, we're staying proactive, right? And that we're navigating that. And that is just a dance that we figure out, right? And you'll have some clients that really try to control that process. And you'll also have coaches who really try to control that process. And you have to be careful of both of those situations. Okay. The second thing in the Financial Coach Academy that I wanted to highlight was it's essentially, we call it our skills checklist. It is literally our program. Okay. One of the things that people will ask for, and you'll see it goes in order of like in an ideal situation, which there's not too many like ideal flows when a client signs up, right? But in an ideal situation, if there was no drama in the client's life, and for our clients, they're very busy people typically, right? Like they're just doing a lot of things. Drama is like a way of life oftentimes. It has in an ideal situation, here's sort of like the stepping stones of the skills we want them to learn. Here's an ideal order of things. If we could pick and choose, we don't always get to pick and choose though, right? And one of the questions we get in our feedback forms is like, what could we put on there? What session number we talk about that topic with? Like people, it says like an order and it's like, first skill we want to learn is this. Here's the various conversations we have. Skill 2, here's what we want to teach. Here's the various conversations we have. And what some coaches want is like session 1, this, session 2, this, session 3, this. That is impossible. It is not possible to create, you guys, because one of those skills, you'll have one client learn it in one session, another client take 4. And there's, you want to pay attention to patterns, but I would be doing you a disservice because what you're trying to do is you are falling into this trap right here. You are trying to control their development and growth as opposed to coaching them through that. Okay. Goes by the wayside every time. Emily, I don't know what that's regards to, but. Okay. So that was trap 3. Confusing, leading or facilitating with trying to control the development. So going forward, here are 3 things that you can do to really work on flexing your coaching muscles in sessions and get really good at it, practice it. I want you to commit to focusing on the application phase for yourself in coaching sessions. Commit yourself to continuing to grow in this area. So even today, I am still growing in this area and I've been doing this for a very long time. I want you to fall in love with the journey of growth. And I'm going to share my screen with you for a second. I'm going to show you what we show our clients. This is 4 stages of like growth, you guys, 4 stages of learning a new skill. Can you guys see that okay? Is that big enough? Do I need to zoom in? Are we good? Someone give me like some thumbs up. Okay, good. Thanks. All right. I'm going to roll through this really quickly. Unconscious incompetence Unconscious means like you don't have the skill, but you don't even know you don't have the skill, right? So this is like you're blissfully unaware, right? Do you guys ever think sometimes I'm like, God, I wish I could be blissfully unaware sometimes, right? In order to, this is one of the reasons why we call our discovery session a eureka session, because it's like you actually have this like epiphany, this aha moment. You're like, whoa, light bulb moment of like, I have a problem, or I have a gap in my skills, or there's something here I could get better at, right? Like and this is where, if we're not careful on today's call, everybody is going to be like in this phase right here, which is like, we now know, maybe some of you for the first time just discovered you are teaching too much and not coaching enough, right? This is a little bit of like a light bulb moment for some of you, and that's a beautiful thing. The next stage is conscious incompetence. You are now aware of a skill you need to develop. You're aware of a gap that you have. This is a painful stage because you're like, oh crap, I'm bad at something, right? Sometimes, right? And if we're not careful, if I were to try and teach you the mastery of this and you're over here, it's way too overwhelming. It feels like way too like big of a leap to make. And we can actually internalize that, and our clients can internalize that and be like, I am never going to figure this out. This is like way too much, right? Like I am way too far gone from where I need to be. The goal is mastery, but the goal of mastery, you guys, the only way to achieve mastery in something is through time and experience. Okay. So for me to expect all of you to be master coaches today, based off of a 1-hour workshop, would be really naive of me, right? And it would be setting an expectation for all of you that is very unrealistic. So this is where the most learning and change happens. This is where we have to talk about, teaching some things, applying that, like laying that solid foundation and then building from there. Once we do that, we start to feel like we're figuring some things out. I'm not bad at this. I'm not a master at it either, but I'm decent, right? Like, all right, this is pretty good. You're going to be in this phase for a very long time. Most of our clients will be in this phase for a very long time when it comes to like financial growth, oftentimes. From here to here, this can happen very quickly. Like you can actually like feel a lot of momentum really early on when you grow. And then also coaches really early on when you're brand new. Once you start learning and growing, it's going to be like a fire hose, right? Like you're just going to like, man, just like consuming so much. This phase right here, the changes in the growth are more subtle. They're more nuanced. The number of options you have at this stage to learn and grow become more narrow. What I mean by that is like you're getting to expert level trainings and skills, which means all of the beginner trainings and skills that exist out there are no longer going to serve you well. You are beyond that in your learning. Does that make sense? The same will be true for your clients as well. This stage, if you're not careful, can feel a little mundane. It can feel a little bit like, okay, we're just doing this, and the wins feel more subtle. Right? So this is where you really want to fall in love with the journey of just growing and learning. Pay attention to those subtle changes, the way you're thinking, the way you're feeling, the nuance of the results you get clients, celebrating the small wins. Those are all ways that you can make this journey a lot more fun. Conscious competence. You reach unconscious competence through time. This is where you do things and you don't even think about doing them. In conscious competence, you're doing things, you have a skill, but you're probably thinking about how you are applying that skill. It's a very intentional act. Unconscious competence feels more like you are embodying it. You have become that, if that makes sense. That's really where it's like second nature, okay? And where you've mastered that skill. We talk with our clients about this. So this is where there's like an education here, right? Like I just educated my clients on like how growth works. And I let them know, like, this is where we're at right now. So this might feel a little painful. We're going to have some growing pains, like that kind of thing. Okay. What I want you guys to do is commit to this journey of mastering your coaching skills, knowing that it takes time and experience to do that. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. Let's see here. The second thing that you can do to really flex your coaching muscles is practice asking really good questions. The best way to do this is start in everyday conversations with family, with friends, with coworkers. So when a friend tells you something, ask a question about it. If you are working a day job right now, while you're growing and launching your financial coaching business, and you're having a conversation with a coworker, practice asking questions when they share something with you instead of sharing or telling your side of things. See how simply asking questions in everyday conversation transforms the conversation. Practice being more inquisitive, more curious, right? Versus sharing your own sort of journey. That's not to say you should never share your journey with a client. There are times where that absolutely helps to develop trust. It helps them to feel safer, helps them to know you understand and you're not judging them and that kind of thing. So absolutely, there are times when you should do that. But the asking really good questions leads to a greater level of commitment from the client. Okay, it's easier for them to commit at a deeper level when you've asked better questions. So what I want to do is share some really great questions with you guys that you can ask. So get your pen and paper ready. The first is when somebody says, I got to fix this, I need help with this, you know, what do I do? Like that kind of thing. A really great question to ask is, did something happen recently that sparked the need to solve this? Or did something happen recently that sparked this question? So if they ask a question, how does X work, right? What do I do about this? You could absolutely answer that question. I have no doubt that you could. Do you show that to clients? Yes, we do. Then instead of answering the question, you will gain so many insights. Tell me why this has come up for you. Where'd the curiosity, is this something you've been wondering for years? Or a lot of the times what will happen is a client will say, well, my sister was telling me that this is the way you should do it, right? And so I was curious, like what you think of that. Knowing that this client now, you just gained valuable insights. This client has a family member who they feel pressured or influenced or they're getting input, right? And they're not sure what to do with that input. They don't feel confident in their responses. This person, sometimes what you'll see, not always, is like, they think this person is really good with their money and they know more than I do. They're better with money than I am, is oftentimes where this kind of stuff can come up, right? And we just figured that out by simply asking the question, like, did something happen recently that sparked this curiosity? I'm just curious, you know, of course, we'll definitely dive into that, but I'm just curious, like what led to this question, right? Is another way of asking that. How urgent is solving this problem for you? I have no doubt that asking that question helps you to guide the client when it comes to choosing the best strategy for themselves. If a client picks a strategy that is like the fastest strategy, let's say they tell you like, I want to get out of debt. How urgent does it feel for you to get out of debt? You know, I want to get out of debt, but like, I'm not really willing to like sacrifice too much and blah, 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 like all those types of things. And then later down the road, you can see them like really sacrificing, really overcorrecting, maybe that type of thing. You have insight of what they said they wanted, and you can simply reflect that back to them. You said, this is what you wanted. This strategy that you're using right now is quite aggressive and doesn't necessarily, it's not in alignment with what you said. Has, you know, is it what you want that's shifted? And that's okay, right? We can change our mind because we're learning as we're applying. So that can absolutely happen. Or again, sometimes it's like, well, I think I'm just supposed to do it that way, right? And again, we want to, it really helps us to have that good insight with the client. Okay. I don't need to elaborate on every single one of these, I don't think. What solutions have you tried already? What solutions have you tried already? Allow them to share those things with you. And then you can ask, you know, based on what they say, if they say, well, I tried this and I tried this, you can then have some follow-up questions. For that particular solution you tried, were there any parts of that you actually liked? And what parts of it didn't you like? right? Chances are they didn't hate the whole solution. There was just parts of it that didn't work for them. This is helping you to narrow down possible solutions in the future for them and help them finesse those strategies into their life. What traits or characteristics or what traits or characteristics do you need to possess in order to solve this problem? So what is needed to solve this problem? What do you think you need in order to solve this problem? Let them tell you that. Another great question is, what steps are you thinking of taking in order to solve this problem? They likely already have some ideas. Let them share those with you. Let them try those first. Let them know that it is, I think so many times clients and financial coaches, if I'm being totally honest, I think back like, God, when I first started this and like what I thought about money was like, there's a right way and a wrong way, you know? And I think clients think that way about money too. I really want to encourage us to change this perception on money, y'all. Okay. Like it is okay to experiment and learn what's going to work for you and not going to work. Okay. And so saying like, if they say, if you ask them, what steps are you thinking of taking in order to solve this problem? And they say, well, I was thinking of doing this, but I just didn't know if it was right, you know? And it's like that approach is right for some people, you know? What would happen if you tried that? What do you think would be like the worst case scenario? What are you afraid could happen? What are the good things that could happen? Like actually let them explore that avenue and think through it. Maybe they decide to try that. Okay. Let's see. What can we learn from this situation? So this is where it's like, if a client is talking about a mistake or I did this, even if it's not a mistake, honestly, you guys, like if they're like, I'm really proud of this decision, all of that, is asking like, what are some takeaways? What have we observed? What have we learned from this situation? If this decision were to come up again, what would you like to do differently? Even if the decision was made and they like the result, ask this question. Be careful about asking this question only when you think they've made a bad decision. Okay. Ask both of these questions. What have you learned and what would you do differently? Every decision, whether it was a good decision or you think it was a bad one. Okay. If this decision were to come up again, what would you do exactly the same way? Ask that question, right? Allow them to like really develop the awareness around the decision. Another really good question, this kind of leads back to the very first one, is like, where is that idea coming from? Where is that thought coming from? Okay. So practice asking those questions. In the Academy, you guys, for those of you who are in it, there's a document that's effective questions. It's in Module 3, Lesson 2. It gives you various scenarios. Like, are you trying to brainstorm? Are you trying to ask like reflection questions? Are you trying to challenge an assumption that they're making about themselves? I'm trying to think of what else there is. Are you trying to problem solve or like break down a problem into smaller components, like those types of things? Are you kicking off a meeting? And it gives you really good questions to ask for each one of those situations. Okay, the third way that you can flex your coaching muscles, number one was commit to your own growth in the application phase of coaching. Okay, really flex that muscle over time. Number two was practice asking really good questions in sessions with clients and outside of work. Okay. And then the third one is with this image. I really want you to ask yourself this question when you are thinking about a coaching session with a client. Okay. I think this visual will be very helpful for you. You'll have to let me know. Like I literally imagine you guys doing this when you're at home in your office or something. So you'll have to let me know if you find yourself doing that. If you're thinking about like, here's what I want to talk with the client about next, or here's the first session with the client that I'm about to have, or something like that. I think the mistake we often make is we imagine covering a wide array of topics. Okay, so imagine the image is this way. It's wide. We're going to cover a vast number of things. What I want you to do instead is ask yourself, how can I cover this particular topic or a topic or two with more depth? How can I add depth to my conversation, not more? Okay, depth. So really think about that. I want you to really imagine that visual when you're going into a conversation. And really and truly, the best way to do that is by asking good questions, being patient, slowing down the conversation, right? You guys, growth oftentimes doesn't happen like that. So if we are trying to force that, if we're trying to control it, we're probably going way too fast. Slow down, okay? The future is female. Andrew just asked me what is written on your shirt. The future is female. And then, so really imagine that, like really ask yourself, how can I deepen the conversation around this one topic as opposed to trying to cover 3 topics in one session, or even 3 topics in 1 month, you guys. Sometimes a topic, I talk about this when it comes to net worth. How many of you talk about net worth with a client and it takes 1 session? Go ahead and put the number 1 in the comment. If you do net worth as an exercise with your clients, it takes you 1 session to do it. Okay, just 1. Ooh, Monique says, my other favorite question, why is that important? Yes. And this is the thing, is like the more you ask questions, the more questions come naturally to you. I actually find it hard to be like, this is the question you should ask. It ends up becoming just more of a natural, if you are embracing curiosity, if you are being inquisitive, the questions come from that feeling more than anything, more than like your brain, it comes from an emotion, okay? Do your clients see that skills sheet? Yes. They get that right when they sign up for coaching. So they know, like, we are moving through things, right? Like we've got a lot to do. I mean, you guys can see it in the academy, but it says, here's our goals. Here's how we know we've achieved this milestone, right? Like it literally says that on there. So they celebrate that. They love it. They like seeing that. At that stage of things though, keep in mind, you guys, we wouldn't show that to like somebody who's brand new, because that's where they could get overwhelmed, right? We show it during the first session of their program. And in the Eureka session, we've talked with them about, here is all the things we can do with you. Here's the value of more coaching. Here's the growth we can help you navigate. And then they just see the specifics of it. So they're not alarmed by it anymore. They actually feel supported, encouraged, empowered, all of that. Let's see. So, okay, you guys, it takes us probably 3-4 sessions to do net worth. In the Financial Coach Academy module 3, there's a training video on how we coach our clients on net worth. Please go watch it. It's all about how do you set the stage, build curiosity around this number. Here is your challenge. Again, this is the depth of that, right? I wish I had more time. I would literally coach everybody on net worth right now, because I find it to be incredibly powerful how we coach our clients through this. The depth of this is thinking about it. Any of us can help our clients know their net worth in 1 session. Help them calculate it, gather the information, know what that number is, right? That is teaching, right? That's teaching. Coaching is 1 year later, if I am no longer meeting with these clients, have I allowed them to grow in such a way that they care about this number so that they want to calculate it on their own, whether we are meeting or not, right? Teaching is me showing you the number and you calculating it. Coaching is helping them to embrace that number, what it means for them. Why is this number important? Listen, I know why I calculate my net worth. I know what value it adds to my life, knowing that number. My job is not to say, this is why this number is important and you should care about it for the same reason. It's to help them discover what that number means for them. And that's what that coaching concept is like inside of the academy. So please go check that out. Okay. The same is true for getting out of debt. If you are delivering, like, here's your debt payoff plan, and it's like 1 session on YouTube, you guys, it's a free video. There is a video about how to coach your clients to get out of debt. And it's the entire process we used to coach our clients. It takes probably 4 sessions to actually develop the debt payoff strategy, all of that. They are so bought in at the end of those 4 sessions, though. It's amazing. Okay. So check those out. So really think about like the depth in which you are covering things, slow down the pace, ask really good questions, allow them the time to apply, even if they're about to apply it wrong, like in your mind wrong. Okay. That is learning, that is growth, that's valuable insights for them. Okay. Answering the question flat out for clients. Is that easier and faster? Well, hell yeah, it is, right? Of course it is, right? But I don't know about you guys. I am not going for the easy approach. I am going for the best approach. And that is the mindset that I want you to have. We are going for the transformative approach. That is what financial coaching is. We're not going for financial educating. Okay. Imagine the sense of pride and confidence that you feel knowing that, like that a client feels knowing, not only do I know how to make a good decision, but I have the skills to make great decisions, and that I trust myself with money because I know even when I make small mistakes, it's no big deal. I'm learning and growing in that process. They actually learn to trust themselves through growing that way. It is so important. So those are your 3 steps. Commit to focusing on growing your coaching skills, the stages of growth, even when you are probably about to be in the clunky, hard, painful phase of things. Okay. Practice asking really good questions, and imagine that analogy, that image, that visual of deepening your conversations, your concepts versus, widening the concepts you teach. Okay. All right. Let's dive into your questions. I'm sorry if you put them in the chat and I missed them. Oh, Richard says a great question is, how's that working for you? Great question. Yeah, absolutely. How's that working for you? If they say like, I think it's fine. I don't really think like, if they're like, I think I should change the way I do this. Well, how are you currently doing it? This is how I'm currently doing it. And how is that working for you? Well, I think it's fine. Well, then why do you want to change it? Right? Well, because so-and-so said I should do it a different way. It's like, hey, let's like fix the things that need fixed. Not everything needs fixed, right? Like, let's like get some work done here. Right? All right, Rachel, my dear, I'm going to move this a little bit.
Hi, 𝗂𝗧.
Hi.
So I just had a quick question. When you're dealing with clients, so my client, I asked her the question of what gives her the most financial security. And I asked her, is it having a large emergency fund, like a big cushion, or is it getting out of debt? And she said what gives her the most financial security is getting out of debt, which means that she didn't really put a lot of stock in making an emergency fund and having one. So, as time goes along, she's getting whammies and she doesn't have an emergency fund. So they're going right back on the credit card. So how do I don't want to tell her, okay, we need to change what makes you financially secure, but it's not working because,
I definitely tackle this in that video, Rachel, like how to coach your clients to get out of debt, because this is a very common thing that happens. So go watch that video because there's a little bit more nuance in that. But also just to kind of answer your question from here is, you guys, it's our job sometimes to point out observations we're having, things we're noticing, right? But tying it back to like why that's important for them based on what they say they want, right? So it's not like I'm saying this and I want you to do it just because Rachel said to do it, right? Like, no, of course not, right? But it's like, hey, I know it's really important for you to get out of debt. I'm noticing that the thing that is hindering your process the most, or your progress, or the thing that like maybe is affecting your ability to do that. And I'm wondering if we did this approach, if it wouldn't speed up your process. Like it might delay it for a short period of time, but then really make it so you feel more successful on this journey. I'm curious what you think of that. I'm curious if that's something is worth trying for you. I'm curious what you think. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that this keeps happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So always tie it back to like what they want. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Rachel, I will say that like, I think we talked about this on one of the Academy coaching calls recently, because somebody was asking like a similar question. Know that like, again, trap would be her saying no, and you like getting into that convincing energy of like, but come on, like, this is really what's best. Or like that kind of thing. Yeah. It is ultimately up to her to decide what she wants to do, right? Your job is to really point out things you're noticing. That's okay too. And ask her like, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Here's how I think this is showing up. Anytime you can give examples or illustrations is helpful for clients. This, again, think about depth, Rachel. This is how I see this possibly affecting the way you feel about your debt-free journey, right? Like really diving in. This is how I think it's affecting the way you think about getting out of debt and how you feel about like your momentum. And like, you know, you can really dive deep into how you are seeing it affecting her, right? Mm-hmm. And then really ask questions like, are you, you know, is this what you're sensing? Like, am I hitting the nail on the head here? You guys will hear me say all the time on coaching calls, like sometimes I read in between the lines and I'm right. I try to be right a lot, but sometimes I'm wrong. And sometimes I miss the mark. Tell me that. You can tell me that. She could say like, no, like I feel fine about this. That doesn't bother me when that happens. Right. And that's okay. Don't try to control the way she applies that or her outcome, but you can just kind of like keep coaching her along the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, 𝗪𝗓.
You're welcome. Victoria, you know, I always ask Victoria what time it is where you are, because I know you're joining from.
It is 9:10 in the morning on Thursday.
Victoria's calling from the future, guys. Okay.
So I love what you were saying there about the depth and, you know, going deeper, not just more content, but, and something I'm kind of grappling with a little bit is on that skill sheet when I was asking that question and, you know, you've kind of got various skills. So showing that our clients seeing that, and it feels like, you know, here's, you know, you're paying for a program and I've said I'm going to deliver these things. So come on, we're on a schedule to get through it, right? As opposed to, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like there's a client I've got coming today and it crossed my mind to actually revisit in more detail net worth, which we've done in the last session. And I'm like, oh, but I've got all this stuff to get through. So
I think this comes down more to, Victoria, how you are articulating your offer, the promise you're making, and how you are describing the offer you're making. So what I mean by that is when we invite clients to work with us, there is no guarantee or promise that we are going to get through all of these concepts in 6 months. That's not the goal. Right. It's progress. You will continue making progress towards your goals. The journey of coaching, like your skills around money, your confidence around money, we will keep deepening that over time. These are the various tools we will use in order to do that. And we're going to do them based on the order we think. So there are times where it's like, there's an exercise where we will tell a client, like, they'll say like, what is that one? And we will say, that's an exercise that, you know, I don't think we're going to touch on because you already do this really well. And you can actually use it as a way of like shining a spotlight on a skill that they already have with money and help them to feel really good about that. So the expectation is not in the content you deliver, Victoria, and the tools you use. It is in the growth that they experience. That they will feel continuous growth for 6 months or whatever your journey is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think it's not that I have even articulated the value back to that sheet in any way. I think it's just a measure that here's my list, get through it. That's what they've paid for.
So this is more in your mind. Okay. I think a couple things that you could do just to sort of like ease your, part of it is like, is this what I expect? Or am I worried that the client expects this? Right. Yeah. So even just putting at the top, like a little note that's like, we have so much we can do together. Money is a lifelong journey, and I'm excited to explore these with you over, you know, time and years, or however you want to word that. It literally right at the top sets a very clear expectation that like, this is not a sheet of like your 6-month program.
Yeah. Okay. It's how it is me learning, because I am still relatively new.
Of course.
And how I use that and measure and articulate and so on, and link it back to, what I've actually said to them at the beginning, which is much different really. And then I've gone from that to this like skill sheet. I'm like, oh my God, get through the skill sheet. So that's good. That's
here's thinking about kind of like how I'm thinking to our very first session and like, how do we set that up? Like, you know, I think the way you could do it, Victoria, is like, it helps to set this expectation of like, there's always more I'm going to be helping you with. There's always more you can grow and learn with. And like, I've got so many different things that I can help you with. And the expectation or sort of the message you're giving is like, you don't need to bring me problems for every session in order for that session to be valuable. I always have more I can do with you. That's the point of that. Does that make sense? Like, that's how you want them to feel, is that like, they don't need to bring a problem to you for the session to be valuable. Some clients think that, you guys, and you want to get ahead of that, right? Like, you want to articulate that, like, hey, coaching sessions, I always have things I can talk with you about and that we can develop skills around with your money.
Yeah.
Right. And this is just like a glance of what those are. That's how I think I would set it up.
Great. Thank you.
Or something along those lines. Yep.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Chris says, thank you for sharing that some concepts that I think are simple may take many sessions, and that doesn't mean I'm not coaching well. Definitely. Yeah. Not at all. Do you guys ever fear that a little bit of like, oh my God, like this client is taking longer than another client? I want you to focus, like, again, progress over perfection. Be careful comparing client's progress to another client's progress, right? You wouldn't want the client doing that if you think about it, right? Like, we wouldn't want them doing that. I don't want any of you doing that in your coaching business. So it's not like good energy. Try not to do that on their behalf either. Any other questions? All right, awesome, you guys. We have got the symposium coming up in a couple of weeks, so you will be seeing some photos for that, the Financial Coaching Symposium. Super excited. We do offer a virtual pass for that, for those of you who are not joining us. Hopefully you'll be able to join us next year. We would love to have you. It's a ton of fun, especially now that, hopefully things, the world is healthier and that kind of thing. But we do offer a virtual pass, which is recordings of the entire event that you can get. If you have any questions, we will be sending out an email of like what the specific topics are that are being covered, that are being taught. We do offer breakout sessions. All of those will also be recorded and provided in the virtual pass. So for those coaches who will be in attendance, what I want you to think about with the breakout sessions is which breakout session is most relevant to me right now for my business. You get the recording of the other one. So you're not missing anything. Try to keep that in mind, right? Like, you're not going to be in that room possibly. But Susan says, how many do we have coming live? I don't know. I want to say it's like 30 maybe. It's 32, maybe. I don't remember. We have like a big team. And so I always know the number with like everybody, and I can't ever do the math. So it's way more than last year, Susan, we're super excited about it. It's going to be amazing. And we have more people doing like the virtual live option as well this year, which is pretty exciting. So you guys should see my house right now, by the way. It is like literally taking up my living room. So there is boxes and stuff and storage bins and supplies everywhere. So I hope this was amazing for you guys. Embrace your coaching skills. Please always share in the Financial Coaches Unite group what your takeaways were, anything insightful that you learned that you can share with somebody else. Let's keep that group as collaborative as possible. Let's learn from one another, and check out Financial Coach Academy if you have any needs for training or development for yourself as a financial coach. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye, you guys.
Take care, everybody.